Hello, good
Hi.
evening. Wow, so good to see all of you tonight. Wow, what a night. So good to see everyone. Good to see you all. Let us know if you're here. We never quite know who's with us, but we'd love to see you. Uh, yeah, what a week, huh? How you
Yeah,
been?
it's
I
been a
guess I know how you've
whirlwind.
been. Yes.
Yeah,
Um,
mostly because of the Super Bowl.
oh, yeah. So, yeah,
Hey, Charlie.
it is a glorious week. I'm just getting the Instagram feed set up here. It is a glorious week. I'm curious if you're with us. Let us know who you're going for in the Super Bowl. I think it's obvious that any Broncos fan needed to root against the Chiefs. My dad, for some reason, went for the Chiefs, and to me, it's inexplicable. It's indefensible to root for the Chiefs.
I'm sorry.
And hey, Brad, how are you?
Hey,
Um, I was going for the goat. I was going for Tom Brady. Love
meaning
that guy.
not Casey. You were going for Tampa.
Tampa, yes, she knows. She is a football fan.
You don't spend 4 hours around a football game and not learn anything.
And I must tell you, I have a good friend from Jerusalem, actually originally from Kansas City, who lives in Jerusalem. And over the years, he's talked a whole lot of smack to me about the rise of the Chiefs and the downfall of the Broncos. And last year, he let me know when they won. And this year, is a little different tone, I would say. But I would say, Brad, I can't get behind that. I love you, but I cannot get behind that. I'm sorry. But I would say, and I need your help with us tonight, okay, all of you. How can I troll my friend from Kansas City? What's the best thing I could do to just make him miserable about his team losing?
That's what the rabbi wants.
That's all I want to know. Do I need to work on myself? Yes, I do. But I don't care. He's been tormenting me for the years. Now, I will point out that the Torah forbids a person from taking revenge. So I probably shouldn't do anything to him because he did it to me. But I'm not doing it because he did it to me. I'm just doing it to torment him. So I think it's okay.
That's like your relationship.
Yeah.
It's really love.
It's really love. So that's why it's okay for me to torment him. So I want ideas for how I can torment. I was thinking about writing a poem, maybe even making him a TikTok.
Oh, maybe a song.
Yeah, maybe a song, maybe a TikTok. So I think that's all in order, but we're interested into your feedback, how you think I can best troll my dear friend from Jerusalem by way of Kansas City. So while you think about that, it actually...
Can I share my biggest dilemma with the Super Bowl?
Yeah, please.
It's like I wanted to, we always watch the Super Bowl with his parents, and I wanted to care, and I wanted to be interested to watch the game, but I'm like, oh, maybe if I pick a team, then I'll actually care to watch. But I couldn't get myself to care enough to pick a team.
Yeah. Well, your team is my team, which is right. Brady and the Bucks.
So. Ultimately, I think, not like I was really rooting, but I'm trying to remember why. I think because of how you explained with Brady, just because he left the Broncos, it doesn't mean that you don't care about him anymore. Once you start following a player and you have a relationship with them.
Sweetheart, he was never on the Broncos. I wish he was on the Broncos. He was on the Patriots, and I hate the Patriots. She's in Peyton Manning, who retired. He was never on the Broncos. Here's my thing with the GOAT, Tom Brady, the greatest athlete of all time in any sport.
He was never on the Broncos?
Never was he ever on the Broncos. I wish to God he was on the Broncos, but he's not on the Broncos now. So here's kind of the... here's the...
Can I just read that?
Yeah, it looks like maybe...
We might have some kids
we might have some kids staying home. I don't know. Okay. Sorry, we got a little message. We have a little situation here where a kid needs to stay home. We can look after it. It'll distract us, okay?
Okay, I'm just so curious.
It's okay. Yeah,
okay, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait for you guys.
Yeah, it's okay, good. So here's my thing. When I was in college and beyond, I was a huge fan of Peyton Manning, especially when he came to the Broncos. That was beyond college. And I therefore hated Brady. I hated Brady because he...
Hey, Ben. Do we say hi to Ben yet?
No, Ben, what's up? How are you? I hated Brady because it was like him, Peyton, and Peyton's the man, and Peyton's the GOAT, not Brady. But then what happened was when Brady started winning more, and he got another Super Bowl and another Super Bowl. And I hated Brady so much, by the way, when they played the Seattle Seahawks in the Super Bowl. I was determined to root for the Seahawks, even though they just crushed the Broncos the year before.
Really? Why?
But then when I saw Brady's face, I could not root for him.
Why were you going to root for the Seahawks?
Because I hated Brady so much, because I thought Manning was the GOAT. Peyton Manning was better. Whatever, it's a little complicated. Don't even, it's okay, it's beyond you. It's okay. So I hated the guy. And then he kept winning. I'm like, you know what? This guy's great. This guy is like watching Michael Jordan in his prime, winning those championships. Like, I love this guy.
So you like did tshuva?
Yeah, I did tshuva, kind of, right. And I started going for Brady, and it felt tremendous. It is so fun to root for that guy. I love rooting for Brady. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be Tom Brady for Purim coming up in 3 weeks. If any of you, by the way, have any suggestions, I'm going to be a goat, and I'm trying to figure out if I should have a goat body and a Brady mask, or a Brady body and a goat mask.
If anyone even has any ideas how to pull off a goat body, I would be very curious.
He's got it, yeah. So give us your feedback. He deserves dressing up as. And along the lines of Purim, by the way, we have an amazing program in collaboration with some other organizations in town, including YJP and the Den and Yad and Moishi House, Boulder, and Denver. So really awesome collaborative effort. Join us online for our online Purim program. Anyway, so I will be dressed up probably as a goat. So I need to get on that. Anyway.
Purim is coming. Oh my gosh.
So maybe next week we'll talk about Purim and some misconceptions about Purim, misconceptions about drinking on Purim or not. So we can talk about that. Okay. But before we get into tonight's topic,
we have really big, exciting news for you. Yours truly, us.
That's us.
We have gone viral.
We gone viral on TikTok. I recognize if I get Sara in more of the videos, we can go more viral. And we produced, I produced, and she acted in a wonderful video where we made tomato dip, her famous tomato dip.
If you haven't seen it yet, you're about to see it.
And this thing just went berserk on TikTok. By the time I was done watching the video, we got another couple hundred views. We're up currently to like 18,000 views.
I don't even know what those numbers mean.
That's crazy viral. So we're going to show you what we're talking about on a new feature on this amazing platform. Thank you, StreamYard. Here we go. Yeah, ready? Then we're going to learn. We're going to go over some misconceptions around koshers. But check this out.
How do you make your classic tomato dip?
Sorry.
Rebitson, how do you make your classic tomato dip?
Garlic tomato dip for Shabbos. All you need are 4 ingredients and a blender or a food processor. Here's 1 large tomato, 4 freshly peeled cloves of garlic, 2 tablespoons of oil of your choice, and 1 teaspoon of salt. Now we're just going to add it all to the blender. Tomato, garlic, salt, and oil.
Sometimes my wife lets me do the blending. Okay, that was special. That was special. Thank you all for your love and support. We're back, but that was our viral video. Go check it out yourselves, and stay tuned for the jalapeno dip making one.
It's coming.
It's coming. It's coming. So get excited.
And what should we do next?
Let us know what you want to know how to do. We're gonna do some how-tos on TikTok. So whatever you want to know how to do, you let us know. It just can't be anything related to home improvement. Light bulb installation, picture hanging.
Light bulbs. And those are the things
I could do those. So fine. That's it. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, we have a one last sweetheart. I'm sorry. Okay, bye. I will say goodnight. Love you. So the last thing I will say about the Super Bowl is that the guy Winfield, when he went like this to Tyreek Hill, I was loving it. And he got flagged for taunting. I thought it was worth it. But again, that might have been a little bit revenge because Tyreek Hill did that to him and he did it back. So it's kind of a moral dilemma.
Maybe it's like their secret language.
No. Tyreek Hill scored like 300 yards on him one game. And when he scored his touchdown, he's like, see ya, peace. Or I think he meant like second touchdown or peace. And then this guy in the Super Bowl blocked a pass from him, and Tyreek Hill had a terrible day. So he's like, and he got a flag for that. And I was fired up. I was also fired up when Brady got mad at Matthew. So anyway.
When you follow the players, it's not like you're just watching football. It's like you're watching a TV show of your favorite characters.
Yes, and Brady is my favorite character. Okay. Anyway.
I just realized that.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, we got to close the door, though. I'm sorry, bud. Thank you. No, just all the way. Just give it a little close. Here we go. Nope. All the way. Thank you. Okay. So we want to talk tonight at this point. Again, this season of Live from the Bunker is dedicated to misconceptions about Judaism. And there's a lot of misconceptions about a lot of things Jewishly. And one of them I've heard throughout the years is misconceptions around keeping kosher. So what's the deal with keeping kosher? What's the deal with what is it?
If you guys have any questions for us, actually, did you see someone posted a question in the comments?
Really?
I'll find it. I just saw it.
Really? Your Facebook doesn't show the comments up here.
No, not like of the show, of our post about the show.
Oh.
Is it this one?
Got some comments here. Questions.
No, wait.
Okay.
It was on yours, I think. I'll look for it.
In the meantime, I guess I will present you with some misconceptions that we've heard that people ask.
I could do that. Oh, no,
about bugs.
Oh,
we'll get to bugs.
Oh,
that's
funny. I went to the wrong one. Yeah.
So.
Okay, so some other questions. And tell us if you guys have ever heard this before. Oh, Charlie wrote OU. We should talk about like the symbols.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Cool.
Okay, remind us at the end. We'll talk about some symbols.
Is it kosher if the rabbi blesses the food? I feel like this is a real story that I heard. Someone was on an airplane and they didn't have a kosher meal for him, like some rabbi. And the flight attendant said, but you might like, I don't know if she knew he was a rabbi, but like you're a rabbi, you could just bless the food, right?
Right.
And then it would be kosher.
Right.
So that's like a common misconception is that food because someone comes and blesses it.
Yes.
Are we just going to go through all of them now?
Yeah, let's go through the ones that we hear the most. Right. Some people sometimes will ask, is the fact that it's kosher, does that mean that it's the most ethically, produced? Or if it's ethically produced, does that mean that it's necessarily kosher?
And it's interesting because there's a lot going on is it Europe? With like.
Oh, they're trying to ban kosher slaughter in like Belgium, maybe?
Yeah.
That was a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is it the most healthy to keep kosher?
Right. And what if the food is vegan? Is it kosher then? Because then it doesn't have any non-kosher animals or non-kosher dairy in it. So like what else could be not kosher about that?
Exactly. And like there's a lot of things like that. Like, why does a pack of chips need to be kosher? It's potatoes that were fried, or
why does a pack of raw sunflower seeds not need to be kosher?
Oh, there you go. I love those. In my microbiome diet, week 4, I've been eating me a lot of sunflower seeds. I don't know if I'm meant to or not, but I need to get some more kombucha today, by the way. Maybe I'll run down in a minute. No, I'm saying like I only had 1 cup today.
I didn't have any yet.
Ooh, after Life in the Bunker, that's what we're doing.
Afterwards,
get some kombucha party.
Instead of a tea party.
We used to have ice cream parties almost every night, which is why we're now on the microbiome diet, because we had ice cream parties every night.
If you want ice cream and you don't really want to eat it, Bengal Spice Tea by Celestial Seasonings is. Don't you think so?
It doesn't replace ice cream, sweetheart. No.
No, but like
I can't.
If you want an alternative.
Right.
It's not ice cream.
I do want to give, by the way,
sorry,
I want to give a shout and a thank you to my man Ben Mayer for this awesome mask before we begin. His little Broncos logo and my nickname, the D-Train. D-Train. Thank you, Ben. Okay. Anyway, you're my man, Ben.
And then there's one other. Oh, that's what we said. It could be unkosher. about certain foods. And then we could talk about bugs too. That's a great.
Right.
But, I mean that.
I think we'll get there.
That ties into some other things.
Yeah. Before we want to get into like answering all these, just kind of like a personal tale, if you will. We started life in the bunker with a personal tale of how we met. This is at the beginning of the pandemic.
Wow.
So for me, on my journey towards observance Jewishly, so kosher was always like a toughie, you know. I became, more observant in high school, and like the last thing I kind of wanted to take on was keeping kosher.
Why is that?
It's because I'm a foodie and I love good, I love kind of some of that food I grew up on. I remember when we went to visit my uncle in Israel, who's a modern Orthodox. He made, we kept kosher at that time. And the first thing that we did when we came back to the airport in Chicago, my sister and I, we like bolted for the non-kosher pizza. It's like we had been deprived of like non-kosher food for so long. Like this is the first thing we did. And when my brother actually became religious a couple years before I did, I was interviewed in a nonfiction classic called Paper Plates, When Part of Your Family Keeps Kosher.
Which we have somewhere.
We have that somewhere. And the lady, I believe, maybe she's watching. She lives in Boulder. Alex Amshi knows her personally, really? Somehow. That's so cool. And I was quoted in that book as the kind of the not religious, family members of people who became religious. And I was quoted as saying, when my brother got religious, at first I was mad because then we couldn't order Pizza Hut into the house anymore. It was like a real thing. Like Papa John's, you got that garlic sauce there.
Like kudos to your parents. All of a sudden your brother's keeping kosher and they won't bring non-kosher pizza into the house.
That's like, loving.
That's a big
good
deal.
Parents. Yeah. Thank you, Mom and Dad. Yeah. I probably shared this before on this platform, but Chipotle was a major part of my life. I dressed up like a burrito on Halloween and there's another time.
Chipotle.
Thanksgiving. Showed my school ID, student ID. They gave us a free soda. It was a big part of my life, and it was very difficult to give up that. There's the yawn. Okay. We'll keep it. Okay. Now, Brad, good man, you're eating healthy. Let's not talk about pizza. I feel you, my brother. They had a board meeting at the Jewish Experience last night or yesterday, and they served pizza. And usually I kind of like when they start the meeting, I creep in and I like get 3 slices from my plate and then I leave and then I have a nice lunch in my office. But this time I crept in and I took a bunch of salad and I left. And I feel you. I feel you, my man.
Yeah.
But
you do on pizza.
Brooklyn Pizza is what's up. That's where it's at. We need to support local business, especially local kosher business.
Yeah.
So go there. When you're done going there, keep the lookout for my man Morty, who has a falafel truck, which is incredibly good. And then when you're done with that, look out for the ice cream popsicle hip pop truck. As a matter of fact, they parked today in front of my synagogue. And I'm going to say this quietly in case other kids are around. I'm very proud of my oldest son, of Rabbi. He comes with me every day to shul. I said, you know what, boy? I'm proud of you. I'm going to buy you a hip hop. But you have to finish it before we get home. So I got him one. He was happy. Very special moment we shared.
Yeah.
And I'm going to talk loud again.
What's exciting about this is, first of all, it's important to support our local businesses, but also like there's more and more kosher options, which is just awesome.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so like, yeah, but eating, I guess these non-kosher things is a big part of my life. And eventually
Wait, one more thing. I just can't forget to mention the East Side Kosher Deli.
Oh, yeah.
If you need like matzo ball soup or schnitzel.
You know, I had sushi today. I had sushi to go today.
Yeah.
So hip hop is kosher near. It is kosher.
It is.
Hip hop is kosher. Go get yours today.
Sorbet pops, depending if you dip them in dairy, then they're not, but they're even parve, non-dairy.
Wow. So go support them today. Amazing. Good to see you near. But So for me, it was really one of the big challenges that I faced in my journey was letting go of that non-kosher food, that Chipotle.
Yeah.
And that was obviously a big challenge.
Yeah. Can I just say for a minute how I did it?
Yeah.
So when I was in high school, actually, I was already keeping Shabbos at some point, and I remember like that was the next thing. Is like my friends would go eat in non-kosher restaurants, and I just like didn't feel comfortable with it anymore. But with my family, that's we had Chinese once a week, pizza once a week, so that was just like part of my journey that I remember that it's good to do things slowly. So we talked about like how hard it was for you. So one thing I did at first was I stopped eating out with friends because I felt like it wasn't as necessary. And like with my family and as part of our like family culture, then I was still doing it until I graduated high school. And then I went to Israel and I got stronger in my foundation. And I said to my parents, I'm keeping kosher and I'm going to come home and we're going to make the kitchen kosher. And they said, fine, we'll do it. And we took everything. We took every plate, every pot, every utensil. We dipped it in the mikvah, which doesn't make it kosher, but it's a whole nother thing. Maybe, I don't know, maybe that's worth touching on because people get that confused a lot. And we koshered it and we made it kosher. So I don't know, baby steps. And it's awesome when you have people around you who are willing to support you.
Beautiful.
Even if it's hard sometimes.
Yeah.
For both of you.
Yeah.
That's okay.
100%. And Nir, if you wouldn't mind actually, because you said you're buddies with the owner. So he actually, I posted a picture on Facebook and he found me. And
Hip Hop?
yeah, I posted it and he like found me on Facebook.
Yeah.
And like is very nice and kind. So if you want to just like tag him like on the thing so people can see him and give him some support, that'd be awesome. Yeah, definitely look out for where that truck is. Really great concept. Yeah, and Tom China in Boston was a big part of our life once we became kosher. Every Saturday night, some college kids would party. Some would go to frat houses. We just went to Chinese food.
We either got a ride or took the shuttle.
Yep, whatever it took, we would get it. So amazing. So support, good man, Asi, and yeah, good business, great man, great product, good stuff.
Yeah,
okay.
It would be nice to see more and more kosher, but that would also, we have to be careful to really give support to the businesses that we do have and not take it for granted.
Exactly. Very grateful. Okay. And in God's compassion, he made things once I became kosher that when I became kosher, it wasn't kosher yet, but it later did become kosher. So like Gatorade, Tootsie Rolls, and for a nice while, Subway was kosher in Cleveland. Had a nice run. I think it closed down during COVID, which is very sad. Yeah. But it was a good run. Anyway, so I think tonight again.
Hi, Deb.
How are you, Deb? I think tonight what we're trying to do is, just lay out some framework for what kosher is. But before we do that, I think there's some, just maybe we'll cover them the most brief, some spiritual aspects of it, some more Kabbalistic aspects of keeping kosher. And it's one thing just to point out that it doesn't always resonate as much with people, but as an observant Jew, so at the end of the day, we believe that we're in this intense, loving relationship with God. In a relationship, sometimes we will do things that our fellow member of that relationship asks of us to do. So
even if we don't want to.
Right. So if you ask me to take out the garbage, even though I don't want to right now, I will. Because I love you, and that's what you asked me to do. And even if the logic doesn't make sense, I'm sure we've said this before. If I give you for your birthday a Game Switch cube, and you tell me, no, I don't want this Game Switch cube, take it back and buy me $100 flowers. I don't think that makes sense, but that's what you told me to do, and I'll do it. So at the end of the day, it's important to point out that I, at the end of the day, keep kosher because of this belief that I'm in this loving relationship with God, and that's what He's asked me to do. So what that means is that even if it's not always as easy or it doesn't make sense, if it turns out it's not actually as healthy or
as delicious,
delicious.
I just relate to that. If you go to an event and there's this gorgeous buffet with all this like delicious healthy food, and then on your table is like wrapped in foil and saran wrap, or like these boxes, and then you just have to like quietly unwrap it and hide the foil under the table.
Right, at this classy
it's
event.
Not the same.
Right. So it can be challenging, but what I'm doing is I'm connecting to God in this loving relationship. So even if ever like the reasons that sometimes we use to rationalize kosher don't apply, I will still happily oblige by the kosher for that connection to the Almighty.
And part of that is, I think, just acknowledging, like, as much as, the food or, whatever it is, whatever reason that it might be hard to keep kosher sometimes, is like that relationship with God is the most meaningful to me, more than not feeling embarrassed, which I shouldn't be embarrassed because like I'm doing what God wants of me, or then enjoying that delicious food, that like there's a list of priorities, and like I never want to do anything intentionally to damage that close relationship. It's special. So
yeah, beautiful, 100%. Yeah. And some of the Kabbalists, the Ramchal, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, among them, basically describes that there's a spiritual element that comes a part of us when we eat. So when you eat something, to some extent, you're absorbing kind of the nature of what it is that you're eating. And if there's something that the Torah rendered to be not kosher, impure, so to speak, we're imbuing that or embedding that into our soul, which is certainly something that we that we try to avoid whenever we possibly can.
That reminds me of, now that we're doing this microbiome thing, in the book, he talks about, whatever you eat becomes a part of your DNA. I'm not like a science bucky, but it really becomes a part of us and changes. Like, did you know what you eat changes your DNA?
Yeah, or it expresses it like the positive sides of it in different ways. Mm-hmm. We're reading this book, guy's name is Raphael Kelman. He's a doctor in Manhattan. Really interesting stuff. And yeah, the way you eat like affects you in very deep ways. And this applies Jewishly, spiritually as well.
Which makes sense. Right?
No, that's fine.
It makes sense because everything physical and spiritual, like they have like counterparts. Like there's physical things in this world that exist to help us understand spiritual realities. So it's like, so the science of it physically, or like, oh yeah, like I didn't realize that would be, but yeah, that makes sense. So that helps us comprehend how spiritually it could be affecting us as well.
100%. After this class, we're gonna mute all of your WhatsApps. I'm like going crazy. We have the device just to see who's with us, who's tuned in with us.
There's like a particular conversation at the moment, everyone.
He's always okay, yeah, I've silenced all my notifications a while. And it's life-changing. Highly recommend it. One time I even silenced my messaging capability. So yeah. I was like so chilled out. It was amazing. Now, the Ramban Nachmanides says, to some extent, oh my God, you are what you eat. And it's interesting because among the non-kosher foods that we, that we regularly, among the kinds of foods among animals that we don't eat are scavengers, meaning, or not, that's the wrong word, predators, I think, predators, birds and animals that prey on other animals. They have that kind of streak of like cruelty in them that they just pounce on their prey. Typically, we don't eat those things. Mm. What do we eat? We eat cows. What do cows do? Cows sit there, they moo and they chew grass. They eat grass. Oh my God. Can we, is there a way to get rid of it?
Yeah, Charlie said I'll put on
just put on Do Not Disturb. Yeah. Okay. It's like every 5 seconds, bam, bam. Okay. Anyway, probably seems like one of our kids will be staying home based on all the. Okay. Anyway, so Barack Obama's stepfather, Lolo, explained growing up where he grew up that, quote, a man took on powers of whatever he ate. One day soon, he promised he would bring home a piece of tiger meat for us to share. So I guess that they had this kind of tradition also that to some extent So therefore they want to eat the tiger to be, I guess, tough like the tiger. We don't necessarily want to do that. We want to be like chilled out like the cow. But there's some element of being you are what you eat. Now, finally, actually, just two final ideas about some of the philosophical Kabbalistic concepts. The Klei Yakar says the purpose of keeping kosher is for the well-being of your soul. And the idea is that non-kosher food has this ability to remove elements of purity in the soul, and we don't want to do that. We want to maintain that purity within the soul. Finally, you want to say
I have
something?
one more idea
Yeah.
also. Rabbi Smith once taught us when I was in Neve. He used to teach at Neve. He always has a great way of explaining these like deep Kabbalistic ideas. So he says that each one of us has our own like pipeline between us and God that connects us physically here in this world to the spiritual reality of what's going on. And when we eat kosher food and when we do mitzvahs in general, then we're keeping that pipeline clear and unclogged, right? We know all about this.
Unclogged. Did you tell them about that last time?
Yeah. Just listen to
Only
last week if you're
use
curious.
toilet paper in the bathroom.
Also,
no
like,
tissues. Tissues are for your nose.
This week when our heater went out,
Yes.
right? And the guy said that you should get it serviced every so often, so because the soot, the white stuff, also it fills the pipes and it clogs it and causes problem. So we can really understand this like idea of this pipeline. But when we eat kosher, we keep it clogged. But when we eat non-kosher, then it creates like clogs in it, like grease or toilet paper, depending what type of pipe you have in mind. And that's what to use. So it's just like a very visual way to understand that, like, when I eat kosher, I'm doing it to maintain my spiritual connection, that there should be as little disruption as possible.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. 100%. Yeah, that's a good point. Very deep, good point. The final, again, kind of Kabbalistic idea that the Ramban points out actually about the prohibition of mixing milk and meat. Right? You're not meant to eat a cheeseburger, all sorts of other goodies, Philly cheesesteak.
Unless it's really an impossible
pizza,
burger.
Impossible, that's a different story, right? Pizza with pepperoni, well, that's another story. Pizza even with hamburger meat on it. So the Ramban says spiritually, what does that mean? The Torah says, not to cook a kid in its mother's milk. So when you think about what that represents and what that is, it's pretty interesting. Not to cook a kid, meaning this
a baby
goat in the very thing that sustains it and keeps it alive. Doing so, says the Ramban, is cruel, and you don't want to bring that energy into yourself.
It's so cool that like this, this act of cruelty, like people might do it and not even think about it, but we're just trained, like Judaism really trains us to just be so aware of what we're doing and be so conscious of our intentions. And if that's something that's cruel, then like, we're never allowed to eat any kind of meat and any kind of dairy together, because God forbid we would never want to do something or like relate to something that was so cruel.
Right. Beautiful. Yeah.
It's like such a sensitivity.
Right. We like stay far away from any semblance of cruelty, right? Like distance ourselves tremendously from that. Yeah. Excellent. Cool. So moving right along, I think now to start maybe answering some of these misconceptions that we started with, we're going to look more like the what. It's like, what is kosher, right? Maybe you've seen the term. You've seen the OU that Charlie showed for us. Let me find where that is. We can show everybody. Did he? I think he flashed the OU sign there. Right. The OU. What's it all about? What is it? So no, it's not the rabbi coming in and blessing anything. Rabbis, I guess, bless their children on Friday night. I guess if people are ever struggling, they could ask for a bracha, for a wish of well-being and success. We bless food We bless God for giving us food before we eat food, but we don't like, okay, I hereby declare you you kosher, right? It just doesn't work like that. So according to dictionary.com, kosher is adhering to the laws governing such fitness, genuine, and authentic. That's dictionary.com, but
Can you explain what they mean by that?
I'm not quite sure. I'm just showing you what people think out there.
Interesting.
Merriam-Webster says it's sanctioned by Jewish law or being proper, acceptable, or satisfactory. The Hebrew definition.
That's interesting because there are two words, like two types of ways that we use the word kosher, right? We use it to describe food that's kosher and non-kosher, right? To determine if the food is kosher. But we also just in our connotation could use kosher as like anything else. Like, is that like the proper, acceptable way, right? Like, if someone wants to go talk bad about someone else, like, hey, that's not kosher.
Right.
Or
exactly.
Whatever it is.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, it's not allowed. It's not okay. We also use it. But the Hebrew term, lehachshir, hechsher, what does that mean? Hechsher. To be machshir. So, Mir, you can correct us if I'm wrong. I believe the Hebrew term means like prepared. If it is prepared in a certain way. So that's what kosher means. That is this prepared in a certain way? Is the food prepared in a certain way? Now, there's honestly 3 different categories when we think about what's kosher and what's not kosher. Certain things are, this is category 1. If I was teaching my high school kids now, I would go to the chalkboard or the whiteboard and write, number 1. Inherently kosher, category number 1. Some things like vegetables, fruit, is inherently kosher. Okay? Certain things are never, this is number 2, never kosher. And category number 3, certain things are kosher when supervised. Okay? So there's inherently kosher, there's never kosher. Sorry, Charlie, I still have your OU up there. I'm going to take that off for you. Okay. Now, so the question is, what? So you have, again, inherently kosher, never kosher, and kosher when supervised. So the first 2 cases are pretty easy. Fruits and vegetables, inherently kosher. Now we'll say it's a little more complicated than that, but for now,
if
inherently
they're
kosher.
not cooked, right? If they're right, despite bugs is another discussion.
Right. Bugs sometimes creep into fruits and vegetables, and those are not kosher. So we have to check our lettuces and certain kinds of vegetables to make sure there's no bugs in them, because that's not kosher. But most things, an apple, a pear, a plum.
There's also a long list of things that don't even need a hechsher, that don't need to be labeled kosher because they are inherently
kosher.
Right? Like a bag of sugar or a bag of flour.
Right.
Or, the raw seeds.
Like unflavored beer where they didn't add any additives, any extra ingredients or flavorings, etc. Right. So those things are inherently kosher. Some things like pig and shellfish, those are nevers. Those are never kosher. Nothing you can do to the pig or shellfish will make it kosher. And then there's a lot of other stuff out there that when supervised is kosher. Okay, so we're going to elaborate a little bit on this category. Let's talk about meat first, as 2 vegetarians are one of our favorite topics. Okay, what makes meat kosher? Some of you might be familiar with this. The Torah tells us that ruminants who have split hooves. Ruminants.
What are ruminants?
Ruminants, I believe, are animals that chew their cud. Animals chew their cud. Very interesting topic. Animals that chew their cud who have split hooves are kosher. The cow has 4 tummies. The way it works is that the food is sent back up after it chews it. You re-chews it.
And goes to the next stomach.
And it goes to the next one. And honestly, I believe this reflects how we're meant to eat, actually. Just slowly. We don't have to throw up, and then chew it back down again. But They eat methodically. They don't just like blah, 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 right?
Menschlich.
Menschlich. They eat like menschlich. Now, this would include things like antelope, bison. We encourage you to go to the Eastside Kosher Deli to pick up your bison burger, which, by the way, when the baby was born, Esti, when Esti was Devora or Esti? Devora. When Devora was born about a year ago, we were in the hospital,
Sorry.
and the Eastside Kosher Deli very graciously delivers to the hospital. So they came and it's like, what do you want? I'm like, oh, I need an Impossible Burger. And somehow they heard from Impossible Burger, they heard Cowboy Burger. So they took like a legit real burger and they did their thing to it and they brought
The
it.
deli did.
Yeah, because I thought I ordered a Cowboy Burger. And I ate it, and about halfway in, I'm like, wait a minute. Something's not right here. I'm too full. This is like too real. And I realized what happened. I ate the Cowboy Burger, not the Impossible Burger, as a vegetarian. Anyway, at least I didn't have the Bison Burger. Cow
But you could.
is kosher. Deer is kosher. Gazelle, goat, ibex, and sheep are among these kind of kosher animals. You might have noticed all these are herbivores, like we said before. They're not scavengers, no, predators. And it is, in fact, they are all kosher. I tend to eat some of these things on Purim, actually, as a vegetarian, where I consume enough wine that the cow doesn't bother me anymore, that it once mooed and
This
chewed
is
its
not my
cud.
favorite
And
topic of discussion.
okay, we can move on.
Okay.
She's getting grossed out here. Okay, now, within the cow, for example, there's something called the Gid HaNasha, which due to when Jacob was injured in his fight with the angel, he got injured in this sciatic nerve. So because of that, from time immemorial, since then, we don't eat that part of the cow. There's certain veins and fats that we don't eat. And I believe it's like very expensive to remove. So I think practically what works is that the hind quarter of the meat is chopped off and it's sold as non-kosher meat because I think it's too complex to get it out. And so kosher butchers will just take that part and sell that part to.
So it's not even wasted.
So it's not wasted,
it's
right?
It's given to people who can eat it.
Exactly.
Cool.
Now, let's say that I'm going to I'm on the farm, and unfortunately, I found my cow. I don't know, succumbed to mad cow disease or something, and just like died. Am I allowed to then chop it up and grill it for dinner? Make a hamburger out of it or hot dog? The answer is no, because, and this is interesting, right? You could have kosher animals, but unless they're prepared in a very specific way, they're not kosher. So if it just like drops dead, you go hunting and you shoot it. If it's killed in a non-kosher way, you can't partake of it. It's not kosher. It's called a nevela or a treifa. And therefore, there's a specific system called shchita. Shchita means slaughtering, which interestingly, by the way, the Torah says, and this very well might be a proof for the validity of the oral Torah. The oral Torah is basically like it's basically like the way I think about the written Torah versus the oral Torah. The oral Torah, the written Torah is kind of like the lecture notes written down in short form, and the oral Torah is like the actual lecture. There's a lot written down that's not clear from the written Torah. The oral Torah explains it all. So one such example of this is the Torah says regarding slaughtering kosher animals, it says you should slaughter the animal like I explained. Mm-hmm. Now in the entire Torah, you don't see anywhere it explained how to do it, which again suggests that there's another there's more information out there that wasn't written down at first about how to do this. But basically, what needs to happen to slaughter in a kosher way is you have a trained kosher slaughterer. He severs the trachea and the esophagus with a razor-sharp knife, causing an instant death with minimal pain. The knife must be perfectly smooth, and the shechita is done in one fluid motion, making it fastest and least painful. Once that happens, again, it's not like an expert, and he does this, there's an inspection of the insides to see if there's any physiological abnormalities. The lungs are inspected, and if there's problems and abnormalities in the lungs, it's not kosher. The whole animal is not kosher. It's called a treifa. After this, we are not allowed to eat blood. So there's a salting process. And after...
Some of you might remember your grandmothers or great-grandmothers
salting
the meat.
That's
it was
right.
a real thing. Like, people used to do it themselves.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's why kosher salt is called kosher salt.
Maybe.
Right? Because that's probably what they used it for.
Yeah, could be. The thick salt.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, once the veins and the fats were removed from the animal, it would be salted for about an hour on an inclined surface to allow the blood to flow down, since we're not allowed to partake of blood. Every animal that's slaughtered goes through this exact process. Animals that would be found dead are not kosher, as we said. If they're hunted, not kosher. And yeah, so that's an interesting concept. Now,
Hi, Noah.
all right, Noah. When it comes to milk products, it must come from kosher animals, which is interesting discussion, actually. In America, I think in order for it to be approved by the FDA, America, in order for it to be approved by the FDA, it needs to be, I think, from milk, unless otherwise indicated.
From a cow.
So there's an idea called Chalav Yisrael, where some people are strict that they only drink milk which was certified that it was produced by a Jew who oversaw the supervision from a cow. But Rav Moshe Feinstein, a great rabbi who passed away maybe a couple decades ago, he said that, again, in America, because it is, it wouldn't be illegal to, pull a quick one and sell pig milk under the guise of it being cow milk. So he felt it was like you're allowed to consume regular milk even without that special certification of Chalav Yisrael, of Jewish milk, so to speak.
So the whole idea of this Chalav Yisrael is just to make sure that you're actually drinking milk from a cow, that that it wasn't switched in trickery and guise.
Yes.
From a non-kosher animal.
Exactly. We're going to run through some of these other things again, just a lot of information here. We'll try our best to keep things as close to an hour as possible. So in addition, we said what's kosher meat or not. But even if you have kosher meat and you have kosher milk, as we said before, you can't mix them together.
Right.
The Torah says not one, not two, but 3 times not to cook a kid in its mother's milk. We learned this, that you're not meant to eat them together, cook them together, or even derive benefit from them. You can't sell them. You shouldn't own, like a Burger King, for example.
So what this means practically is in a kitchen that has meat and milk, that means there's 2 sets of dishes, there's 2 sponges to wash them with, 2 sets of pots, 2 of everything, really, in order to ensure that the meat and the milk are always prepared totally separately. Exactly.
And there's an interesting halacha, depending on your custom, but most Jews is most people follow those who abide by these guidelines. At least they wait 6 hours between eating meat and milk. There's different reasons why that is brought down in the halacha. One is that the meat kind of stays stuck in your teeth for a little bit. Or another is that it emits this like meaty taste in your mouth for up to 6 hours, so you're super grossed out. So we wait 6 hours between eating meat to milk. Now, when you go from eating milk until meat, you don't have to wait anything. You just snack on something. You take a sip of water. You're good to go. But if you eat hard cheese, let's say like a Parmesan, a hard Parmesan, and that has the same idea, it could get stuck. It's hard, and then you would have to wait actually 6 hours. Now, if you are lucky enough that your father's father's father is from Germany, you only wait 3 hours. And if you're even luckier and your father's father is from Holland or the Netherlands, then you have to wait 1 hour. But everyone else, pretty much, we wait 6 hours. How to calculate those 6 hours is subject to debate. maybe 5 and a little bit, 5.5 and a little bit. So that is a discussion. As vegetarians, we very rarely have this dilemma, but sometimes, let's say we go to Israel and they're making the falafel in the same oil that they made the shawarma. So in that case, we would have to wait as well.
Sure.
Sarah won't eat that; she's too grossed out. But I can be not as grossed out. Looks like if Rummy's home. Hopefully, there's a way in, right, Selma? Anyway, okay.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, how are you, Jeff? Good to see you. So that is a little bit about meat and milk. Jeff, by the way, who's with us now watching on Facebook, it's been in the meat industry for a while. So we're just talking about meat, and it's awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. Now, what about little fishies? Okay, so fish. If you want to eat fish, I never ate fish even before I was a vegetarian. I find it really gross. But when it comes to fish, the fins, which help the fishy swim, and the scales, which cover its body, the fish must have those two things to be kosher. Fish are different from meat in that there's no ritual slaughter process. So you can go, trap the fish in the net, go fishing, whatever you do. Classic things that are kosher fish would be tuna, bass, carp, cod, flounder, halibut, herring, mackerel, trout, salmon, and anchovies. Herring is a very popular kiddush dish. We're looking, God willing, to be running some socially distant kiddushes,
what are the
which
fish?
will have
herring
at them.
Yeah.
Yes. So get your meat from Jeff. It's awesome, great stuff. That's the only place to go, as far as I'm concerned, to get meat. If we ate meat, I would be probably his most dedicated customer. Okay. Now, I should start thinking actually about Purim, the right kind of meat to eat. Anyway, when it comes to non-kosher fish, we're talking about things like crustaceans, like lobster, crab, or other shellfish, because it doesn't have scales. I definitely heard of it, but I don't know what it means. So if anyone knows, you could tell us. Aquatic mammals like whales and dolphins are not kosher. And for at least Ashkenazic Jews, there's no prohibition of fish with milk. So you can go ahead and enjoy your lox and cream cheese bagels. Although Nir, if you're with us still, I believe for Sephardic Jews, they don't do this. I don't think Sephardic Jews have milk and fish, or dairy and fish together. I think the old tradition, it's not healthy or safe. I'm sorry, my phone's ringing. But I believe that Sephardic Jews don't do this, although when the lag gets cut up, maybe Nir can verify that for us either way. Or Moshe, if you're with us, you can speak to that, or any other Sephardic Jews in the house among our hundreds upon hundreds and hundreds of viewers.
Mm-hmm. But they will eat rice on Pesach.
Yes.
So
which is awesome.
It's kind of a trade-off. Yes.
So all you Ashkenazi ladies out there, if you want rice on Pesach, go find yourself a nice Sephardic man.
But then you can forget your lox and cream cheese.
This is true. So you got to kind of pick what you want. Okay. Now, insects.
And if you need help finding that person, you can reach out.
Yes, we can help you. That's always working on it. Yes. Okay. Now, when it comes to kosher birds, we spoke about meat. We spoke about fish. What about birds? So I was never about kosher bird myself.
My least favorite.
Even when I tried to snap out of, you don't like birds, kosher birds?
Big.
I tried eating sesame chicken in high school, and I was not about it.
I'd rather pick my bagels than my birds.
Yes. However, so how does it work? So the Torah actually tells us 24 types of non-kosher birds. And it uses very interesting Hebrew words for them that we don't necessarily know what they mean. It's a bit ambiguous. So our tradition today is only to eat the kind of birds with which we have established tradition that they are kosher over the generations. Okay? So, yes. So we, among the things that we do have a tradition of being kosher would be pigeons. Brad, we're still working on it, man. We didn't forget you. Always working on it. God willing. Pigeons, turkey, chicken, duck, and goose. Any bird that preys on things like vultures, hawks, eagles. Those are not kosher.
Just like the other animals.
Just like the other animals. And birds, like their cow counterparts, unlike their fishy counterparts, need ritual slaughter. They need a shechita. Okay, they don't need, it's not like fish. You have to kosherly slaughter it. Now, turkey is an interesting one. I think we said turkey. Some have a tradition that it's not really necessarily kosher. I think some Jews, I forgot what kind, it might be German or I forgot what kind of Jews. I think that they're nervous that turkeys are not kosher. So that's interesting. But I think most of us assume turkey is kosher. So when Thanksgiving comes, enjoy it. Have your turducken. Don't recommend tofu ducken, which we had a couple years ago. Wasn't my favorite.
Tofurkey.
Tofurkey. Do not go for the tofurkey. Don't.
Yeah.
It's not my jam. Not my jam. Insects. Most of them are not kosher, although 4 kinds of grasshoppers are locusts. There are certain kinds of grasshoppers that are kosher, and they don't need to be ritually slaughtered. But it's not really my thing. To be killed before eating? Yeah, we're not meant to eat things alive. I'm almost certain of that. Yes. Now, okay. What about, this is one of the most common questions, the most confusing ones, store-bought processed foods.
Yes.
So they require certification by a rabbinic authority to ensure that they contain only kosher ingredients, unless that there's a what we call a vad hakashrus, an organization overseeing the supervision, or a hechsher, again a stamp of kosher approval. And there's certain like ones that we trust more so than other ones. Unless it has that, we don't necessarily trust. We don't know what goes into it, and there's all these additives and things that can be problematic.
Yeah, a lot of times, like if there's an ingredient that this just has a tiny, tiny little bit on it, according to FDA, they might not need to even tell you what it is.
Right.
But according to kosher, it could be a problem.
Exactly, and that stamp of approval, that OU or Star K, or in Denver, the local one is a Scroll K. Unless it has that, for all we know, the food could have been produced on machinery which was used for non-kosher foods, and it could have ingredients in it that are simply not kosher. So it guarantees that these ingredients are kosher. Now, there's a common ingredient that might be problematic or might be okay, and this would certify it's okay. That would be, of course, glycerin, among others. It could be made out of animal, or it could be made out of vegetable. So that'll help. There's certain flavors. You have all these like crazy numbers and flavors.
Do you guys remember like that whole thing with like M&Ms or some candy, like the red color? I don't know if it was true. It was made out of like beetle juice, and you remember that?
I don't, but you might be right. Because there's something called castoreum, which makes up some of this, which is a beaver extract. Now, this actually reminds me of a, and by the way, civet, civet, contains cat extract. Now, there's a song, because we mentioned it, we mentioned beavers. This might actually be my next TikTok video. I'm going to give a little preview to all of you viewers out there. It goes like this. Thank you, Saba. Saba, if you're watching, I don't know if you have Facebook.
Saba's Facebook.
No. Okay, Saba taught me this, and I very much appreciate it. I'm a beaver, you're a beaver, we are beavers all, and when we get together, we do the beaver call. One more time, everyone all together. Join me on Facebook. I'm a beaver, you're a beaver, we are beavers all, and when we get together, we do the beaver call. Right, thank you. That's the beaver song. Thank you, Saba. Taught me so many great lessons. That's among the best that you've taught me. So emulsifiers also hold food together, and food coloring can be made from non-kosher animals. Like we said before, just to be aware of the common hechsherim to be aware of, to look for are an OU, a chaf and a K, an OK, a Star K.
Interestingly, there's a big misconception. A lot of foods have just a K on it, a plain K and nothing else. And brands can actually put that on their food, but it's not a specific organization. It stands for kosher, but you don't know like kosher according to what? Like there's no stamp of approval on it. It's just a company writing that. So I know like a lot of yogurts and things have that, but just to be aware, it's not actually kosher. There is an awesome app by the CRC, the Chicago Rabbinical Council, and they have tons of lists. If you want to check anything out, whether it's, which symbols are kosher or not kosher, you can look it up on the app, or you can even call them and they can tell you. Or if you're like at the store and you're like, wait, does this need a kosher symbol on it? Like your ingredients, they don't. Your canned green beans, they do. So you can also look up in the app all kinds of different things if they need certification or not.
Exactly.
The hardest part is like when you see a kosher symbol. This happens, I feel like, at Trader Joe's a lot. Now you see a kosher symbol and it's in like a shape that's like a country or a state, and you don't know what country or state it is. So how do you look it up? Because you're like, if you call them, it's like kind of looks like this. It has like a big jut on the right side of it sticking out. Like it's hard to know. You have to be able to identify it. So that's where geography comes in handy for kosher.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. No, that's 100%. I guess the last thing, we're almost done. We are over an hour. We apologize for that. Just regarding kind of like, well, what if you go to like a vegan, like Indian restaurant? How could that not be okay? What could possibly not be kosher about that? So that type of thing, it's definitely a longer conversation, but there's a few issues at hand here. One is the dishes might have made things on them that are not kosher.
And the dishes are porous, so
it absorbs that non-kosher element to the foods in them, and they need to be koshered, which is interesting. If you ever want to go kosher, you can take a lot of your dishes and actually kosher them in a variety of ways. If you're interested in that, please reach out to us and we can help assist with that. The other question we alluded to is in a lot of classic like veggies that are great that you find, like broccolis and strawberries and all this type of stuff, there's bugs in
raspberries.
And if it's not kosher, we have no guarantee that they thoroughly search for the bugs in a way that a kosher a kosher restaurant would.
Kale.
Kale is very difficult, right? So a lot of times in these vegan places,
herbs,
right?
There's a lot of bugs. If you want to check, we could teach you how to check in your fresh herbs.
Yes, and Ashley, thank you for joining us. If you go to the beginning, in the first like 10 minutes, we gave you a lot of shouts. But give it up, everyone. I'm going to share his comment. Give it up for Ashley and his delicious hip pops. When we're off this diet, that's the first thing I'm going to eat.
I want another coconut one.
Even on the diet,
chocolate,
it's probably
and
fine.
the coconut.
Yeah, we need more of that. So thank you so much for joining. Okay. Wow, I feel like a celebrity joined us. Just give it up one more time. Wow. Oh, the man involved in bringing us this gift to Denver. Thank you. Okay. Now, just finally, we're talking about vegan restaurants and why it's problematic. We said the dishes could be a problem. There's bugs. And there's also an interesting halacha called bishul akum or bishul yisrael. So in a kosher restaurant that involves hot foods, so typically that involves a Jew basically starting the cooking process. He's involved in the cooking process, and he has kind of that set of eyes to make sure that everything is being cooked in a kosher way. The Talmud goes through various reasons why that is. It's beyond the scope for now. We're beyond time. But that would be another reason why, it's just, you can't, we wouldn't go into like a vegan restaurant for those number of different reasons. So it does need that kosher certification, like our local places, Brooklyn Pizza, Eastside Kosher Deli, Hip Pops, High Point Creamery, Falafel, Morty's Falafel Place.
Falafel truck, by the way, they don't use meat oil to make
totally
their falafel.
So you can go have Hip Pops after. It's a great combo. Falafel followed by the Hip Pops. It's a winning combination. All right, we're going to leave it there. We thank you all again for joining us. Stay tuned for our upcoming jalapeno dip TikTok video. Should be out this week, and we will see you next week. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for joining us.
Good night.